Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, Super Mario Bros. Is perfect. But what if we pretend that it wasn't? It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with ya. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. It's an exciting day here at Nintendo Cartridge Society because, we've kept this under wraps for a while, but we're finally able to announce the third host of Nintendo Cartridge Society. And that, of course, is Emio?
Emio? We think
the Smiling Man?
Emio? Here's the real problem, though, is that, we got a letter from Nintendo saying, like, here's your new host. Then it was like, for details, like, please see the other side of this letter. We turned it over. On the back, it just says, who is Emio?
Right.
Mark, what's actually going on here?
Yeah, so this morning,
yeah.
As of this recording, on the day that we're recording, Nintendo, across all of its social media channels, on Twitter, for Europe, for like the UK, for America, for Japan, all posted this like 12-second long video.
But the video itself isn't posted to Twitter; it's posted to YouTube, and on Twitter, it's just a link to that video.
Oh, probably.
So they're not even uploading the video to Twitter directly.
Probably because the video is like age gated in some countries.
Yes.
Because it's teasing
a
like M-rated horror game, seemingly.
Seems that way. And the kind of horror that's like it's got a very like either Saw kind of vibe to it, or possibly like The Ring.
Yeah, The Ring.
Like you've seen like a man in like a coat of some kind, possibly trench, possibly lab, and with like a bag on his head, possibly grocery.
and the bag.
It's
definitely like a trench coat.
Right. Okay.
And the bag has like eyes and a smiley face on it.
Right.
And that's all we get.
That's
all we know.
And
we're not doing a news episode. There's no news episode on Tuesday.
That's right.
And so, are we running the risk that by the time this episode releases, Nintendo will have
maybe
revealed whatever this is?
Well, here's the thing, and I know that I say this every time that we like something happens. We're like, well, last time they blah blah blah, and that, but also looking to Nintendo's past is never predictive of their future. I don't remember them ever doing something like this. A tease that's like a 12-second video for something we don't recognize literally at all. For like a game that, when would this? What are we even thinking this is, or when it would come out, or like?
Well, and there's just so many things that are weird about this.
Yes,
I mean, it's not that Nintendo hasn't. Everybody's making a ton of assumptions,
right?
And so here are some assumptions that I'm making.
Yeah,
that Nintendo is not developing this, but they are publishing it.
Sure,
same sort of thing that they've done with Fatal Frame, same sort of thing that they've done with Bayonetta.
Yes,
right. I don't think this is an in-house Nintendo like mature rated game that they're developing, but is it from the developers of Fatal Frame? Is it from
right? I mean, but also like it could be in house, right? Like this could be something along the lines of like Eternal Sonata, right?
But
name of that game,
Eternal Darkness, but that wasn't in house. That was developed by a third party.
Yes, or Geist.
Right, and Geist I think was, but I don't think that was M-rated. And it's not really a horror game.
No, but there are ghosts.
There are ghosts in it.
It's definitely M-rated. There's a shower scene where you possess a shower head and watch a lady shower.
Oh, okay.
Like it's an M-rated game on the Nintendo 60.
You're right.
On the GameCube.
It's not totally impossible,
right,
that this is developed in-house by Nintendo, but it feels unlikely to me.
Right.
But it's also has to be, or I would expect it to be more than like an indie game or something, because
more than an
all
indie
of
game.
Nintendo's channels to post it basically simultaneously.
It gives the impression that this is something we should be paying attention to.
And yet, at the same time, is going to be incredibly niche.
Absolutely, yes.
Maybe it will be a Fatal Frame. How many handfuls of people bought a Fatal? You know what I mean? Like, it's not it's just not what Nintendo is, which makes this all the more intriguing.
Right. Well, so I do wonder if there's any because like the vibes of it, like the first thing that like pinged for me were the uh final not jeez Resident Evil 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
With like it's sort of more like backwoods like grounded horror components, the all of that, like the people in the swamp shack, whatever, and kind of Silent Hill, right? Like
Yeah.
it's got that same like totally washed out color palette. And we know that like Capcom is pretty good at like playing ball with Nintendo and like doing stuff just for them. But we haven't seen anything on like the scale of Resident Evil 4 in a very long time. Unless you want to count Monster Hunter Rise, which I guess we probably should. But that Konami is also kind of going nuts right now with like making Silent Hill games, but because they don't really have development resources anymore, it's always partnering up. So like could this be a like Nintendo Konami partnership to put out some kind of Silent Hill Switch exclusive? Like possible,
Oh
I
yeah,
guess.
interesting. Let me throw one other possibility at you.
Yeah.
This is the first teaser for the Super Mario Brothers movie 2.
Yeah, I think that's probably that's right. They're going in the different. They said it was going to be
They
different.
said it was going to be
Yeah.
exploring different parts of
Right.
the Mushroom Kingdom.
Right, and so like here is the Hills Have Eyes part of Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, we have no idea.
Yeah, I just wonder. Really, it's just like I wonder how long we're gonna have to wait.
Yeah.
To find out more.
What is a scarier tease? This or the one where like the Mario is peering out from behind the curtain?
That one feels more ominous because the Mario one felt like he was about to, like deliver bad news to you.
Yes. Yeah,
And it was like Mario's pulling
Yes.
back the curtain to be like, "Oh, you're here. Okay, it's terminal."
Well, and that's exactly right, because the curtain didn't feel like a curtain on like a stage. It was like the curtain that separates your hospital bed from someone else's hospital bed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seemed like bad news. I hope we see that image again when it comes time
I
to
would love
tease
that.
the
I would
Switch
love
2.
that. They're like, we need an image
Yes.
that teases something. Well, we have one of Mario pulling back the curtain.
Yeah.
I hope that's just like the stock image for all teases that Nintendo will do in the future.
I mean, it would be nice if they like added Luigi to it, right? So there's like two of them
Oh,
peering
that'd
out
be
from
funny.
the-
Yeah.
And then for the Switch 3, they like added,
Emio.
Yeah, Emio, who will be our favorite in 16 years when the Switch 3 is being announced. All right, any other thoughts on this enigmatic teaser?
No, there's really no information.
Yeah.
There's nothing more to be said.
No information exists. All right. Well, we will get to our main topic here in a second. But first, of course, we just want to shout out our Patreon, patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where if you are supporting us at the 8-bit or 16-bit levels, you get access to our once-a-month episodes of miniseries. We are currently making our way through the second season of NCS Arcade.
Yes, and so we asked you, the listeners, to help us decide
This is your fault.
which of the Game Boy Mega Man games
Yes.
we should play, and you voted for Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, which is the first Mega Man game.
Right, on the Game Boy. Coming in second was Mega Man 5, which I was sort of hoping we would get, but I may play it anyway. And coming in last place with no votes was Mega Man 3.
People just spit on it.
They're not interested. They either wanted 1 or 5, and then at the end, 1 ran away with it. So
Yep.
that's what we're going to be playing for July. If you would like to play along with us, you can get on that now if you are a subscriber to Nintendo Switch Online. Also, if you are following us for free on Patreon, you can get access to our like sort of email listener feedback episodes on each of the episodes of NCS Arcade, where people are leaving us emailed feedback. So make sure you're checking those out. Those have been fun to record, and I hope they're fun to listen to. And then if you are supporting us at the 4-bit level, you now have access to all of NCS Detective Club. So lots of stuff going on over there at the Patreon. That you can get into if you've never interacted with it before. There's free stuff to go check out. And then, if you are not in our Discord yet, you should. Mark, we're always in there talking about stuff.
We are.
And doing a lot of organizing around Pikmin Bloom, right?
Yeah, that is true. If you have even a glancing interest in
Yes.
Pikmin Bloom, this is the Discord to be in.
I'm probably like the only one, right? Email us Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Oh no.
I was checking. I got a work notification on my watch. Let's roll it back.
Okay,
roll
all
back
right,
10
all right.
seconds.
We'll roll it back.
Uh-huh.
So if you are not in our Discord, you should email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society
At gmail.com.
Perfect that time. And we'll send you an invitation. And yeah, it's good. Get in there and chat with us. And then finally, of course, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle sourcebook issues 1 through 3 are in comic book stores right now. I wrote this thing and am very proud of it. Issue 4 comes out on September 4th with the collection coming out early next year. But I think that's it for the business. Mark, should we get into our main topic at hand here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's fix some NES games. The absolute hubris right here.
Oh, yes.
I mean, this is something that I had to, for some of these, because we have a list of games that we're going to go over, and I did have to go like, okay, pretend you don't know it's ridiculous to like punch up this video game.
Although I will say
Some of them were pretty easy.
some of them were pretty easy.
Some of them pretty easy.
Like we have talked a lot on the show before that the NES means something to us.
Yes.
But there are a lot of NES games that I've never played or don't care to play or don't like or think are bad. Like the NES is a very specific slice of
I turned on Urban Champion earlier today. And Mock Rider.
Yeah, like the NES is a very specific slice of video games.
Yes.
And they are not all perfect special babies. Some of them are ugly, terrible babies that could use a little makeover.
Like cry and cry and cry. Yes, okay. We just give them a little blush and we'll learn to love this baby. And you know, part of the reason why we're doing this is sort of twofold. Obviously, Nintendo is in a celebrate the NES kind of phase right now, what with Nintendo World Championships NES Edition coming out a week from today, which I think we're both excited about. Not that it's going to be a game that like rocks our worlds or anything, but like I think it'll be fun.
I know I'm hesitant to even like make those predictions anymore after Luigi's Mansion 2 HD just kind of took over my life. But yes, at this moment, in the clear light of day, I do not believe that, but I am looking forward to it. The more we see of it, the more interesting it looks. And
you know, if we can ever get over like the eternal hump of you just have to sit down and play games together, Patrick and Mark.
Right.
I think we would have fun.
I think we would too.
Like competitive versions of those games. So there's that. There's that. And B, of course, last week Nintendo dropped 7 new NES games, not new NES games, but new to the service onto Nintendo Switch Online. And you know, now that library is like 80 something games, which is an impressive. That is now like a legit impressive resource for NES game presentation.
Yeah.
And you know, in a lot of ways, those games are made playable by the fact that there are save states and rewind. Which, you know, like I feel like for all the games that we're about to talk about, you could say rewind and save states would be go a long way towards making them work.
Totally.
Right? Or at least making them playable, if not like super fun. So we came up with a list of 10 NES games that and we're also going to surprise each other with one additional game each. And we're just going to pitch a single thing that we think could alter the game for the better.
Yeah.
Right? Make it playable in a modern context.
Yep.
And some of these games I think perfectly playable now. Some of them I think like legit do feel broken, right? As is.
And it's kind of remarkable what one change can do to some of these older games. And I feel like the perfect example of that is 3D Classics Kid Icarus, which Nintendo released for the Nintendo 3DS.
Yes.
And there were a couple of entries in this series, but I feel like the Kid Icarus one is the one that sticks in people's minds, certainly sticks in my mind the most, because
like the other like big ones were like Sonic the Hedgehog 2,
a Kirby game, right? Like
Bike.
Kirby's Adventure or something.
Was there a Kirby one too? Maybe Urban Champion.
But what they did with the 3D Classics Kid Icarus is they took the opportunity to not just make it like stereoscopic 3D, but they
which they did, and which does improve the game.
yeah,
Like,
which it is cool.
yeah, it is cool, and like they add like like a lot of early NES games, the backgrounds are just like solid black, and they were like, no, this is actually gonna look like rolling hills or the underworld or a dungeon of some kind. Like all of that goes a long way towards just making the presentation of the game better, smoother, more fun.
Totally.
But
Mechanically,
yes,
they made one important change, which is they changed Pit's jump physics to make it feel more like Mario-y.
So yeah, it's kind of twofold, right? They fix it so he's a little bit more Mario-y. You're not as like committed to the arc of the jump when you start it, and if you push the A button as you're descending, he sort of like flaps his wings and falls a little bit slower.
And that makes such a huge difference.
It's sort of like you sound crazy being like, oh, that fixes the game and now it's good. Because like I would not begrudge anyone playing the original Kid Icarus and being like, this is unplayable and a mess.
Right.
But the 3D Classics version, like,
it was super fun.
Good.
When we did our Kid Icarus month, that's the version of the original Kid Icarus that I played, and I had a great time with it.
Yeah.
I really liked that game.
Yeah.
And it took just that one change to make it go from to, oh, this is actually really good.
Right.
I don't know that any of the game changes that I'm about to pitch
are going to do
quite
the same
reach
thing.
that level, but
yeah. I mean, probably not. It's a high bar, right? And do I feel a little crummy like recommending a game that you physically can't buy anymore? Yeah.
I mean, it's not our fault.
No, it's not our. It is our fault for bringing it up.
Yeah, that's true.
But right, we did not shut down the 3DS eShop on our own, right? That happened without our say so. We did not buy into that. So some of these games will be games that we've talked about multiple times on the show before. I think some of these are games that we've maybe only mentioned by name.
Yeah.
And very little else. So let's just like cruise down the list and let's see what we bring to this. Because the first game we're going to talk about is a game that we talked about recently on NCS Arcade. But if you are not a patron, we're talking about Metroid.
Yeah, that's right. The original Metroid for NES.
Right. A game sort of like noted for its obtuseness and difficulty in a lot of ways. When we played it, obviously we were both like using guides and the rewind like crazy. And I found it to be like a pretty satisfying experience once I did that. And I think you sort of did, but like I liked it more than you, I think.
Yeah, I think that's true. But you just like Metroid games more than I like Metroid games.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But the one thing that's really interesting about Metroid that we talked about on that episode is that it has so many brilliant ideas.
Yes.
And it's just very limited by being the first go at it on an 8-bit system.
Yep.
But
with a limited amount of memory and no battery backup. The insanity of having to enter a password every time.
So, do you want to go first with what your pitch is? Like the one thing that you would change in Metroid?
It's the thing I wouldn't stop saying as we were playing it. An in-game map. Just a map that is there from the beginning. You have the full map. You can access it at any time. You just push the button, pull up the map. That's kind of it. Like, just so long as you can see like the shape of the world and where like you are and where various points of interest are. When I played the game with a printed out map of Planet Zebes, I was like, this is 1,000 times more playable.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild that the game doesn't have it. I do think a lot of, maybe not a lot of them, but some of my fixes are probably like, the developers would say, yeah, we would have loved to do that too, but we couldn't for technical reasons.
Right.
But I'm going to, I think between my fix and your fix, we're going to have Metroid solved. Because my fix is, I just want a menu. I just want to look at the basic information of what is going on. I want to know what beam I currently have.
Sure. Yeah.
I want to know like what rockets are going on. I want to.
Sure. You
want
to be able to see what your maximum missiles are.
I want to know the name of my suit. Like I want to
Sure.
Those are the type of details. Right.
And maybe even also it's saying like what area you're in. So like once you've got the various suit where it's like you resistant to the lava in this area, they'd be like, Got it. Okay, cool. Now I can go over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So between adding a map and that, we've basically just created Super Metroid.
Yeah, that is true. And I guess if there were a third thing that we could add, would be like points where you can just like go and fill up your missiles and your health. Because they put these little like makeshift solutions of like these these tubes that infinitely spawn enemies, and you can like camp out there and just like kill them over and over again. So like you can get to full health and full ammo, but it takes a long time and it's boring.
Well, especially because if you like, the game has no logic to say, oh,
Right.
you're full on health. Okay, I'm not going to give you health items anymore. I'm just going
Right.
to give you missiles. It's like, no.
No, it's random every time.
It's just
and
pure
sometimes you'll kill 8 of these things and get nothing. So,
but
yeah,
I think that would be a good third thing. Alas, we are not allowed to
we only have 2 things.
Yeah, we only have 2 things to gift to Metroid.
Right. So we gift to Metroid a map and a menu.
And then we kiss it on the forehead.
Right.
And send it off.
And we say, out into the world, Metroid.
We have fixed you.
Right. And I think that is, and both of those things are in Zero Mission.
Right.
Zero Mission, great game.
Great game.
Many other improvements as well. Would you like to move on, Mark, to our second NES game here that we are fixing?
Yes, which is
Super Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels.
And we kind of played ourselves with this because
Go on.
Super Mario Brothers Lost Levels, technically not an NES game.
Sure.
Super Mario Brothers
Definitely is a Famicom game.
Yeah, Super Mario Brothers 2 was a Famicom game.
Yeah.
And when it eventually made its way over to the United States, it did so as part of the Super Nintendo.
Right.
Super Mario Brothers Super Mario All-Stars.
Right. And at that point actually does have some improvements.
Right.
like a save feature.
A save feature. When you're in the maze levels, it gives a little chime when you're going the right path, like all these different things. So, in that way, I have decided to demake Super Mario Brothers Lost Levels, and I would like to propose a fix that goes back to the Japanese Super Mario Brothers 2 that they changed for Lost Levels. That I actually think I wish that they would have left or would change back.
What are you saying?
That is Bowser's brother, his younger twin, Blue Bowser. So, in Super Mario Brothers 1 and Super Mario Brothers 2, there are fake Bowsers, and these are enemies that you encounter that they look like Bowser. I mean, they basically are Bowser, but then when you kill them with your fireballs or something, then
they turn back into a little gray Goomba.
Yeah, exactly, or like
whatever.
a blooper, and so those are fake Bowsers. But there are also, I think it shows up one time at the end of Super Mario Brothers 2, the Japanese version, and it is a Bowser sprite, but he is blue. And I was reading about this online, and apparently the reason this actually happens in the game is because he appears in a place where in Super Mario Brothers 1 and Super Mario Brothers 2, you know, the Bowser encounters are Bowser's like shooting fire at you. He's jumping up and down.
Right.
You run under him or over him or whatever, and then you get to the end of the bridge, and there's like a hammer or like an axe or whatever that you
destroys the bridge.
That destroys the bridge.
Right.
In the game, if the axe has not spawned in, or if the axe is not there, then his sprite is blue. And so this Bowser at the end of Super Mario Brothers 2, not the very end, but towards the end of the game, is placed in an area where there is no axe, and so he's blue because in order to save memory. And so but Nintendo at the time acknowledged him as a separate character. So in guides for it, they would tease that like, oh, this is Bowser's brother. In some of them, they talked about him being his younger twin. And then at some point, they decided...
An important distinction, the younger twin.
Yeah, that's right.
They're twins,
right.
So it's basically the same time.
But when it came to Lost Levels, they decided they didn't want to do that.
No Blue Bowser.
There is actually unused like sprite in the Lost Levels in Super Mario All-Stars that has a Blue Bowser, but they decided not to use it. And so now they've kind of... Nintendo... It's a character that doesn't exist. The last time as far as I'm aware that he was mentioned, is that in Japan in 2015 they released a a anniversary Super Mario encyclopedia type thing.
Yeah.
And they mention him, but they basically say his true identity is unknown.
Ah, that's interesting. So, if we were to play Super Mario Brothers 2, the Lost Levels on NSO, could we encounter Blue Bowser?
So if you're playing Lost Levels,
Right.
meaning the game from Super Mario All-Stars on the SNES, no.
But if I'm playing,
If you're playing the
Yes.
Japanese Super Mario Brothers 2,
the thing is, it is still labeled as Lost Levels on NSO. But it's the NES sprites.
oh, in that case, possibly.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you would
Okay.
at the end.
And if I'm playing Super Mario Brothers 2 on my Super Mario Game & Watch, then I could also encounter
Presumably, yes.
Blue Bowser. Okay.
Yeah. And so my one pitch to fix Lost Levels, I didn't realize that the Famicom version was on
Yes.
NSO.
Yes. It's okay.
But my pitch
Look,
is still
your pitch is like
that
let's put Blue
for
Bowser
the SNES.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Should have been lost. It should have been Blue Bowser.
It is weird that they would just give us a Blue Bowser. Come on, that's fun. Do you think what we should really do to like bring back the Blue Bowser is put him in a game where he has to team up with the pink Donkey Kong Jr. from Donkey Kong Jr. Math?
Yes, all these discarded
Yes.
Nintendo characters that they're too ashamed to talk about.
Right. They can team up with Stanley the Bugman, and
Yes.
they can get up to something. I mean, honestly, regular Donkey Kong Jr. should also be in that. Right?
I know, yeah.
Because he's not really in stuff.
Mm-mm.
Not really a good pitch, but I loved hearing about Blue Bowser. Here's my pitch for how to fix Lost Levels.
Yeah.
A game that is notoriously difficult, right? And sort of delights. It's sort of the precursor to the modern Kaizo Super Mario Brothers mods that are like teasing you with blocks placed in places that are just there to mess you up. It anticipates where you're going to be and is like, let's make the logical place the wrong place.
Yeah, it's like a DLC for people that were super into Super Mario Brothers.
Right. And I like a level of platforming challenge like that. But what I don't like is the sort of like permanence of failure, right? Especially in a game that has 3 lives and then you're done. And it would just, it could be a real pain in the butt. So what I'm proposing here is that every level have a, before you jump into it, you can access the discrete tricky challenges in the level as like separate little slices, much like NES Remix. And it's just like, it presents you with that challenge and you have to defeat it and then like move on to the next one. And when you've strung all those together, then it pops you to the beginning of the level and you just have to run the whole level.
Oh, that's cool.
And there's no penalty for dying in those like individual slices, and you respawn immediately. So you get a chance to practice all of them and then take it all on at once.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. It's like a dress rehearsal.
Yeah, yes. And honestly, there's I have a couple other pitches that are not dissimilar to that where I'm like, I just want someone to tell me what's going on. Like, I want a chance to mess up at like these later states of the game and not have to like, battle my way up to there again.
Yep.
All right. So those are our fixes for Super Mario Brothers. The Lost Levels. We put Blue Bowser in there. Keep Blue Bowser in there.
Yeah, something with Blue Bowser.
Something with Blue
We're
Bowser.
just talking about
We're just talking, and Pink Donkey Kong Jr. both.
Yes.
And having like previews of individual challenges from each level before the level.
Perfect game.
Perfect game now. Speaking of perfect game, next on our list here is the original Super Mario Brothers.
Kind of impeachable.
Unimpeachable, even.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. What do you? I would like you to go
one.
first. Yeah.
I have one.
Yeah.
But it's. I mean,
it's not necessary.
It's
right?
not necessary.
Right.
This is truly not necessary. It'd be nice to be able to go backwards in levels, I guess.
Yeah, it might be, but
know,
there
like,
is something about like the no, forget it, it's gone.
Like, oops, I walked just a little bit too far, so now I can't break those blocks in the correct order, so I'm not going to be able to get that beanstalk anymore. But really, I mean, that's all I got.
So I had two just in case one of these was taken. But hey, no lives. If I die, put me back at the beginning of the level. You don't need to like count me down to 0. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Mario dies, big deal. He starts back at the beginning of the level.
I really think they figured this out with Odyssey,
Right.
where it's just like, oh yeah,
Lose some coins.
lose some coins.
Right.
I guess I'm collecting them for some reason, so let's do it.
Right. And that is one thing that it sort of breaks, is that like coins do give you extra lives if you don't have you'll still want to collect them even if you're not doing anything with them.
Right.
But I don't know. No lives was my big pitch. Would you like to hear my backup, even though it cannot be
Yes.
admitted to the record here? Easier to get power ups, so just like more of them, mushrooms and fire flowers, and some way to store them. I always feel like when I get deep into Super Mario Brothers that like it can ruin my good time by becoming small. Taking a hit, and then I'm like, now I don't have fireballs. Now I can't take an extra hit, and I don't know how I'm gonna build that back up again when I'm in like World 7 or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, just the kinds of things that they introduced later in Super Mario Brothers 3, where you can just regain that kind of power, would be good.
Yep.
But not something that we're actually suggesting because we are limited to one each. So Super Mario Brothers, now you can scroll backwards, and it doesn't keep track of the lives you lose.
Perfect.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Now it's a perfect game. Moving on to our third game here, a favorite on
It's
the
our fourth game.
Fourth game. You're right. A favorite on our show, Star Tropics.
This is an easy one for me because I have never made it that far into Star Tropics,
Yes.
and it is for this reason exactly. I would fix the controls. I would allow.
So tell me what you mean by go ahead. Yes.
So specifically, I want to be able to make moving jumps.
Yes.
I want to be able to not have to commit to a jump, just in the same way, kind of with well, we'll get
Kid
to
Icarus,
it.
right?
Yeah, but yes, Kid Icarus is a good example. In Star Tropics, you commit to a jump and then you have to make that jump,
Right.
and there's no wiggle room. And then the other part of it that I find really annoying is I feel like Mike Jones, I wish I was able to switch directions more quickly. I feel like
Right.
in like
yes.
Zelda's a good example where Link can turn so quickly, like facing one direction or the other. But Mike Jones, you kind of have to you have to get him in the groove.
Yes. So there's a problem with the way Mike Jones controls in general, and it's all because like he doesn't move a little bit; he moves a square, right? Just like he doesn't jump like a variable distance, he jumps one square, right? And so if Mike is facing right and you want him to start to walk left, you push left on the D-pad, and first thing he does is turn around and then starts to move. So there's this weird delay where like it sort of prioritizes the different facing and then the movement. And if all of that, which is just it falls under a general like fix the controls, right? Which then could also be like if you're standing at the water's edge, you shouldn't accidentally fall in, right? All of that stuff absolutely feels like a fix for Star Tropics.
Yeah, and it feels like the possibility to be a Kid Icarus type fix.
Yeah.
Where it would make that game so much more accessible.
What's interesting is Zoda's Revenge Star Tropics 2 comes close to this. Like it changes the way the jump works for sure. But I think generally speaking, Mike can move diagonally. But like even in that, like it still doesn't feel good. So both those games could benefit from that. My pitch here is that when you respawn after dying, you get full life.
Ooh, yes.
They will bring you back in Star Tropics when you die, and the game like expects you to die like kind of regularly, right? It has 3 lives, which is so weird, right? Because it's a Zelda-like in a lot of ways, and Zelda, like you die, you just like start over, right? You have all your stuff, whatever. But it's crazy that it's like a level-based kind of thing, and it's like, here you go, back into this dungeon. Now you're starting with 3 of your 20 hearts full. And it's like, what? You're starting at such a deficit. Why would you ever do that?
It's so mean.
It's so mean. So yeah, we fixed the controls. and we respawn you with full hearts when you die.
Yeah.
Very
good. Star Tropics.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect game.
My alternate pitch for Star Tropics was fix the jump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, like, even though I know the jump is bad, and I think it should be fixed, I'm so used to it.
Right.
And I know this makes me like a freak. And look, we're gonna talk about Zelda 2 later, so like I'm gonna express more freak opinions as we go. But yeah, it's I like Star Tropics even though it's broken.
Well, I think that's a totally fine and valid opinion.
Next up is Excite Bike. Riding around on a little motorcycle, vroom, vroom.
Mm-hmm. Doing tricks, falling off, running back to your bike.
Yep. Trying to knock other people off the bike. Also, you can create your own tracks if you want.
And that is where my...
mine too.
But really, Excite Bike is a fairly simple game.
Yes.
But it is a really good game.
Yes.
And I don't really have a lot of opinions on how to improve Excite Bike itself, except like more of it.
Right.
But the game just advertises features that do not exist in itself.
Right. Yes.
So there's a design mode, like you were talking about, where you can design your own track layouts. And
cool.
And in the Japanese release, you were able to save and then load those track layouts. The way you did it was super janky, and they never really attempted it on very many other games in Japan because it was like a cassette player accessory that plugged into a port that was on the Famicom, but was also on the Nintendo Entertainment System that they never used for anything, as far as I'm aware. But it was like a full cassette player. And so what you would have to do is you would have to start the recording on the cassette player. Then in the game, click save. It would write basically like white noise onto the game, onto the cassette, and then you would stop the cassette. And then when you were ready to load it, you would go to you'd rewind, start, press load, and then it would like listen for that white noise and use those signals to interpret what the track layout should be. Needless to say, it did not work. It never worked great.
Right.
But they didn't even...
And even when it does work great, that process is horrible.
But when the game was released for the NES, it still had it had design, but it also had save and load.
Which didn't do anything.
Those features didn't do anything. If you clicked save, you'd get a blue screen, and then it would just kick you back to the menu. If you clicked load, you were just stuck on the blue screen until you reset your game.
Right.
In the manual, they even acknowledge this, that like, hey, those two things don't work. But they kind of teased that maybe in the future it'd be something that they supported.
I mean, it has the hardware capabilities to do it.
Yeah, so maybe they were thinking about it for some time. Excite Bike, I think, was a launch title for the NES.
It's a black box game for sure. Yeah.
So my fix for it would be putting like a backup battery in the cart, like they would later do a couple years later for The Legend of Zelda and a couple of other games. So that way you could save your designs on the card itself.
I mean, my fix is way more ambitious in that you can like upload them to. I'm saying like you just like take the game as it is and like give a play, create, share kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
so
I mean,
you could download
that would be
them,
ideal,
right?
For
sure. Because just saving your custom tracks to like yourself is like, okay, what's the point of that, right? Like, I guess it's fun to play tracks that you've made before, but it would be even more fun to like share them with friends.
This is the Wii Music problem. You and I played Wii Music back in the early days of this show, and we had never played it before.
And we had a good afternoon.
We did. We had a fun time with it. But one of the things that we talked about with that is that in some ways it would have been so much better if you were able to share your bizarre creations.
Yes.
But there was no way to do that. There was no affordance in Wii Music for you to do that. And this is the same sort of thing. And it would have been cool if they had fixed it for NSO, made it some way that you could share it with friends. But also in some ways it's kind of cool that it's
still exactly the same. I guess what you could do on NSO is you could design your custom track and then do a save state of it, and then do multiplayer where you hand off the controller.
Yeah.
So like you could recreate the subtle joys of recording your custom track to a
They
cassette
are
tape.
oh so subtle.
It's like a fine wine, right?
Uh-huh.
Like most people aren't going to appreciate it, but like one out of every, I don't know, 14 people is going to have the nose for it. They're going to be like, I love this cassette. So yeah, that's it. All of our recommendations here are around the design track element, which I think is because the core gameplay is just like good, fun, works.
Yeah. Is Excitebike 64 on
I believe it is, yes.
Yeah, that is one that I haven't. Excitebike is a franchise that I don't really think about that often.
Yeah.
But anytime I do play that NES game, the NES game is the one that I've put the most time into. I'm just reminded how fun it is.
Right. So
it's surprisingly fun.
On that note, can we move on to our next game?
Yes.
Because it's Balloon Fight. What a game that I'm like is fun, is good.
Well, yeah,
it's just Joust.
It's just Joust.
But I mean, Joust is also weird, but you're like a little guy with balloons. Everyone has like hats that have noses on them that pop the balloons. There's a fish that lives down there. There are 2 different game modes. There's like the multiplayer where you can like compete against each other trying to pop each other's balloons. Just a pretty good, like, knows what it is and executes on that premise well.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. Balloon Fight is great. And do you want to go first with yours, with your fix?
Yeah, so I have 3 different things written here. So I'm struggling a little bit. I'm going to toss out one that I'm going to rule as unrealistic and therefore and too wide-reaching. But man, if there was like a full-on Tetris Effect style balloon fight game, like balloon fight effect, where it's like hypnotic music and like it changes I'm mostly thinking of the balloon trip mode where you're just like scrolling to the left sort of endlessly, where it could like ramp up difficulty, mellow out the difficulty, and get like trippy visual designs playing in the background. That would be my ideal because it's a hypnotic game already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's good for getting in the zone. I would say in reality, my fix is let me alter my momentum when I'm falling and not just as I'm flapping to go up. So the way the game works is you are a little dude with balloons strapped to him, and you push the A button.
The original Balloon Boy.
The original Balloon Boy, that's right. What a reference that is. The Balloon Boy. And so when you push the A button, he like flaps his arms and like you go up a little bit, and so you have to like kind of push it a bunch to get any kind of altitude. And when you push the button, if you are pointed the directions left or right, you can affect like your momentum and like start moving to the right faster and faster as you go. And then when you stop pushing the button, you start to like fall. But when you start to fall, you are not able to change your momentum at all. You can't like either slow your forward momentum or like try to reverse it without pushing the button to like flap again. And I just want the ability to affect my momentum even when I'm falling. That's it.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Do you want to say what your third one is?
Oh, yes. Varied, more interesting backgrounds.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I feel like mine is basically your first and your third kind of combined. Like, I would love Balloon Trip mode to have multiple variations. Balloon Trip mode is basically an infinite scroller. Yeah, you're a little dude floating along until enemies overwhelm you. And you die.
Yeah, and it's not even really enemies so much as it is just like little sparky things. Yeah. And it's always the same hazards, right? Like it's not as though you don't travel into different parts of the world or different biomes or whatever. There's no part where you're like going over a swamp or like a river with crocodiles in it or something.
And that's what I want. I wish that it was more of a adventure. Yeah. Like a fully fleshed out mode, a fully fleshed out game than just the B mode. Because a lot of these early black box titles have A modes and B modes. Yes. Where it does one thing or it does another, and both of them are fairly slight in the grand scheme of things. Right. Yes. And so but
this is an interesting variation on because the
Balloon
normally
Trip
it's a static screen. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Definitely. Like in Duck Hunt, the A mode and B mode is duck hunt or skeet shooting. Right. It's just not that, it's not that interesting.
I mean, the ski shooting is I always found interesting from a like technical perspective
because of the
because it does this like
perspective
perspective
thing.
yeah, where you're like, oh, that's the little disc is like getting smaller and smaller, getting further and further away.
But it's fundamentally the same gameplay versus
Yes.
here. It's a variation on it, and I just wish it was a little bit more fleshed out. Like you said, let's do the classic. Let's go to a desert. Let's go to the ocean. Let's go
to the
moon.
Woods.
Let's do it. That'd be fun messing with
the
physics
gravity
there. Yeah,
that'd be cool. Also that he's running out of oxygen.
Adding some stakes.
Yeah, he's gonna die. Okay, so and like the joys of both Excite Bike and Balloon Fight that we've been talking about are those sort of like arcadey like functionality to it that like just feels like it works, right? They're just like fun bite-sized experiences. Perhaps the opposite of that now, the fun bite-sized experience, Ice Climber is our next game on the list. A tough hang, Ice Climber.
Yeah, I feel like this one has an obvious fix, which is
yes,
the jump mechanics.
The jump mechanics, which the whole point of the game is like getting up to the next level. So like it's just crazy that the verb is like get up there and getting up there is broken.
Right. So in Ice Climber, you are basically breaking the ceiling above you as fast as you can because the stage is constantly like moving down, up. How would you describe that?
Like the camera is moving up, is like panning up, so the like the level is panning.
Yeah,
down.
So you need to make progress up the screen as quickly as possible. But the problem with the Ice Climber jump is it's another one, and really like once Mario figured this out, it solved a lot of problems.
Right.
But you are committed to the jump. It's another one where once you jump, you have no ability to change the character's trajectory in the air.
Also the arc of their jump is so weird.
It is so
because they jump super high and like it feels like they arc at a weird point in the jump. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's very specific. And then the other problem is that the like hitboxes of the, or what would you call it, like the geometry,
right, always feels a little off.
It feels like you should be making jumps that the game says you didn't make,
right,
and it just feels unfair in that way.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like you're falling through something that like you feel like you should have landed on. The game also doesn't like you like jumping through solid platforms, or it won't let you, which is another one where it's like, well, I don't know, it just feels restrictive in that way.
You need that video game logic.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And if you knock a hole in the floor and then those little fuzzy guys come out and like repair it before you can like marshal the jump under your control, it's really, really frustrating.
Yeah. I do love those little those fuzzy guys.
Okay, tell me about these fuzzy guys.
Okay, so they're called. So this is actually my other pitch.
Okay,
for fixing it. It's like, hey, Nintendo, you can either fix the jump mechanics, but if you're not going to do that,
right,
indulge me by letting me know more about these little fuzzy guys.
Yeah.
They're called Topi, and in the NES game, they're really cute. They're these little fuzzballs that they walk out of their homes and they see that you've broken holes in the floor and it freaks them out, so they run and try to cover it up, try to fix the hole. Fun fact, in Japan, they were actually seals, but then when they released the game outside of Japan, they thought it might not be the best look in the world.
They don't want you clubbing seals, right, as part of the gameplay of Ice Climber.
Now, I will say, I like them in the NES game, but they've shown up in Smash Brothers as like assist trophies or, I don't know, spirits or something, and they gave them beaks. And that I do not care for.
No, that feels like I didn't ask for that kind of detail. I want to know more about like their society.
Exactly. I want to know, what their home lives are like, what they do for fun.
What's their favorite tea?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. I also say, sprinkle some seals in there too. Maybe if it's not always clubbing seals, sometimes it is clubbing these like weird little chick creatures. Maybe that's okay. So yes, I mean, absolutely. And I don't even know what I'm asking for in particular, but fix the jump.
Yeah.
Right. And that was yours. Mine is, look, Ice Climber. We've got two characters here. Give me a second player character that's always controlled by the computer.
That is such a rude awakening going to Ice Climber after becoming familiar with these characters
Yes.
from Super Smash Brothers, where you always play as a pair, and then you get into this game and there's one Ice Climber.
Yeah.
And
which is the name of the game.
I
in
know,
fairness.
but that's it. Just
Can we change
you just
that
feel
too?
naked.
Is that
Okay,
something we
actually,
can change?
Yes.
Let's change the name of the game to Ice Climbers.
I know that we said that we were each going to get one, but Ice Climber just needs a lot of work.
It needs a lot of work. Yeah. So we're introducing seals. We're learning more. This may be like a whole side story visual novel thing about the Topi. We're fixing the jump. You have a second controlled character at all times. And we're changing the name of the game to Ice Climbers.
Yeah. Even if that second character is not playable,
right?
You can't switch between them or anything. Maybe at the beginning you choose which one you want to play, and then if it just follows you, it just just mirrors
does what you're
whatever
doing.
you're gonna do.
Yes.
That's fine. I just want to there should always be two.
Right, like the Sith, right?
Should always be two.
Yeah, okay, so that's how we would fix Ice Climber. I honestly don't know if it can be fixed.
It's funny you should say that because that's how I feel about our next game.
Okay.
Which is Punch Out.
Controversial, I think.
I don't know that there's anything you could do to make me enjoy a Punch Out game. I just don't think it's for me.
Right. And I do so Punch Out, as it appears on the NES and Nintendo Switch Online, we were talking about the version without Mike Tyson, right? Ending with Mr. Dream. This is a classic. If you played it when you were 8 years old, you can enjoy it now because you committed all of these attack patterns to memory at a stage when you could do that in your life, and now it just feels like homework. And maybe it felt like homework then too, but maybe all games felt like homework. It was either play this or Ice Climber, and you're like, well, I'm going to do the boxing game.
Yeah, and it may have just been either play this or do actual homework.
Right? Yeah, that's true. But I should be doing homework, but I'm not for some reason.
Yeah, if you've never played a Punch Out game before, you play as Little Mac and you fight a bunch of racially insensitive champions.
Yeah, sometimes just like culturally insensitive, right? There's some of them where it's like he's too Italian or something.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it's an Italian named Pizza Pasta.
Sure.
But it is all about memorizing their patterns of attack, and then recognizing when you have opportunities to move in and land your blows.
Right.
And each fighter has a different pattern, different like special move. And so it's a lot of just failing and until you get their pattern down to memory. And that's never been something I've enjoyed.
Right. And it is less an action game and more a puzzle game that you have to execute on quickly and accurately. So do you have a fix to pitch?
I do. So we talked about that some of the kind of a hallmark of the series became these cultural caricatures for each of the fighters.
Yes.
And Little Mac is no exception. He's an American whose name is a pun on Big Mac, but because he's tiny, he's a Little Mac.
Also, he's so small.
He's itty bitty.
He's itty bitty.
I love Little Mac.
He's great.
And
Doc Lewis, they're both great.
I want Little Mac to have more hamburgers. That's what I would do to fix this game.
What if he were like boxing in a like McDonald's jersey?
I would like that.
With the golden arches on like a white tank.
I would like that. I think in this game, Little Mac should lean more into the hamburgerness of it all.
Yeah, that's good.
That'd be my fix.
That's good. I like that. And then
maybe the box has like a scratch and sniff sticker on it.
Right.
That has a
smells like burger sauce.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is really just like relish and mayo and ketchup, right? Good. Delicious stuff. My pitch is a boxing gym, where you select what opponent, like maybe it's even Doc Lewis, but he like does the same animations as the bad guys and is like, I'm about to do this. Watch how I do this, and here's how you defend against it.
Yeah, that is such a good idea.
Because that's which I know I could do this. I know I could go to YouTube and be like, how do I beat these guys? And then like learn it and practice it. But let me do that in the game, right? Instead of going out to look for it. Also, maybe not a bad idea to just like get more crazy ethnic stereotypes in the game. I want more. More characters, more boxers. But no, my real one is a boxing gym.
Yep.
All right, now.
Oh, but with those two things,
Yeah.
a boxing gym and Little Mac
More
having more
hamburgers,
hamburger-related
right.
stuff. Perfect game.
Perfect game. Now we're going to surprise each other with super secret games.
Yes.
Where we have not discussed what games these are. Mark is going to bring one. I'm going to bring one. Do we have to pitch on each other's games?
I don't think we have to.
Okay.
If you have one, that's great.
Okay. I'll do my game first. We've already brought it up, but Duck Hunt is the game that I'm going to suggest needs a fix. And the fix is just like a progression system or upgrades. So that like you've got a little bit like wider shot, or you can like do something to like confuse the ducks or slow them down for a second, and like you earn these things as you go. And so there's just like some sense of progression that isn't just more ducks or the ducks go faster.
Oh, that's a fun idea, and I like that it could be. I mean, yeah, you could eventually upgrade to a bazooka, or maybe you're getting duck calls or something like that.
Right. Yes. To like
Yeah.
make them like flop towards the middle of the screen or
Uh-huh.
something like that.
Yeah, that's a fun, or make them like linger a little bit longer.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a fun idea. I like that.
Or even just to like call them back, right? Because like sometimes they fly around the screen for a second, then it's like got away, and if you could just be like, nope, calling that one back, and he's
Uh-huh.
like, comes back and you get another shot at him.
Yeah, that's good.
I spent a lot of time playing Duck Hunt as a kid. Did you
I
play a lot of Duck Hunt?
I feel like I played a lot of Duck Hunt. I wonder how much time it actually was, because I feel like my Duck Hunt sessions were all pretty short.
Sure.
It's a slight game, even as a
Right.
kid.
Yeah.
It didn't hold my
I
attention.
did
for
not
very long.
recognize it. I felt like I would, because like a kid, I would always do the thing of like put the zapper right up next to the TV and like
Uh-huh.
shoot him that way. But then like realized it was obviously more fun to be like standing a certain distance away or sitting on the couch, and trying to zap him that way. Much like I had the power pad for world class track meet and would do the like thing with the fists like everyone else was doing, and then was like, no, it's actually faster and more fun to like use your feet for that. Still like running in a way that wouldn't make sense for running, but like it was just more fun to actually use your feet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember playing Duck Hunt quite a bit, but I can't imagine the sessions were all that long.
It is like an eternal bummer for me that like light gun games don't work on modern TVs
Mhm.
and therefore aren't a thing anymore. Because every time they like release Duck Hunt on like some Wii related thing, or like 3DS or whatever, it's like, no, this like all I'm doing is like tapping or like using the pointer of a Wii remote, and it's not the same experience.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I guess you can experience it in arcade still,
Sure.
but otherwise,
Otherwise, lost to time.
mhm.
Yep.
My super secret game is Castlevania, the original Castlevania
Here
for
we
the
go.
NES.
Yeah.
And the one fix that I propose would have an impact on the game, but I don't think it would like make it significantly easier. I just think it would make it better. And that's the ability to jump on and off of staircases. So in the original Castlevania,
Yes.
it's another one where it's like, no, once you are on this staircase,
That's it.
you are
You're
locked
committed.
in. You
Yes.
are either going up or you're going down, but you're not getting off the staircase until you've done one or the other.
Right.
And I just wish that you could go halfway up and then jump to the next platform so you could do it a little bit faster. Or if
Or
there's like
bail
an
on
enemy,
it, yeah.
bail if you need to. There's like
Or even dodge.
right, because like the first boss fight is this giant bat, and you're in an area that has a
Right.
staircase, and it's a rude awakening.
Yep.
When you're on those stairs, you can at least, as a mercy, you can at least attack. It is possible to
Yes.
attack, use your whip while you're on a staircase, but otherwise, I just want to be able to get on them easier, and I just want to be able to get off of them easier.
Yeah. No, that is a great like tiny pitch that would just like make the game so much more playable. I would say let's make the music a little less rad. Music's too rad. One of the things that I absolutely love about the original Castlevania that I feel like is not that present in future releases is that like it has a whole like film strip aesthetic to its like presentation, where it's like it knows it's presenting itself as an old vampire movie, not like a real piece of like vampire lore, but specifically an old film.
Totally, and you have like Frankenstein's. It's all like classic Universal horror monster movie stuff.
Right.
And yeah, that B movie aesthetic, like you said, with the film strips and everything.
Yes.
And that dies off pretty quickly. But yes, I like that about the original Castlevania game as well.
When they do a new Castlevania game someday, I hope it like leans back into that.
I
and
would
it
love
just
that.
That would be so good. Okay, so now we are back on our like pre-programmed path, and we are going to finish strong here with a pair of games: The Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. One of these is a notably flawed game. Which one do you want to do first?
Let's do. Do you know what? Let's do Legend of Zelda first.
Sure.
Because I think. I mean, actually, I don't know. I think for me, anyways, Zelda 2, my fix is a more interesting pitch.
I think that's probably right, because there are so many things wrong with Zelda 2 that could all stand to be tweaked in like by 1 degree in one direction. And that would make it better. But yeah, Zelda 1, the original Legend of Zelda, kind of tough to fix.
Tough to fix.
But let's hear your pitch.
I'm on the record by not loving this game.
Sure.
Maybe admiring it, but I don't find it particularly fun to play. And so my fix, and something that they did add in later entries to the series, is a visual indicator of secrets. So one thing that the original Legend of Zelda does not do is there's no crack in the wall where you can put a bomb in the overworld, or like any sort of indication that, hey, this is the tree that you burn. And I know that is one of the things that's very beloved about the series, is how about this entry in the series, is how it's all about exploration, and people have a lot of fond memories of making those discoveries for themselves. But as someone who did not really play it when they were young and tried to play it as an
punch
adult,
out thing, yeah.
It is not particularly enjoyable to me to just kind of wander around the world trying to bomb everything, seeing if it's a secret.
Well, and like part of what makes that extra frustrating for both, because it's all burning bushes and like bombing rocks, right? And bombs you have a finite number of, and to replenish them you have to like randomly get them as you're fighting enemies on the overworld. And with the candle, until you upgrade to the second candle, you get to use it once per screen. Then you got to leave the screen, come back, try to burn a different bush. And so yeah, it means that like your ability to explore is limited, like kind of extremely limited, right? Because you can only have 8 bombs max, right?
I don't remember.
It's not a lot. My fix is similar, actually. To just populate the world with more NPCs that tell you where to bomb, where to burn, and crucially, how to get through Death Mountain and the Lost Woods. There are these 2 separate moments in the game where you go into a sort of like nether space between like tiles on the map, and you have to execute a very specific path in order to advance to the next screen. And sometimes it's like up, 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 and sometimes it's like left, down, up. And every time I have played Zelda a bunch of times, but every time I do it, I gotta look it up. And it's just like, why does no one in the game tell me how to do this?
Yeah.
How, if you weren't subscribing to Nintendo Power, were you supposed to figure this out in the first place?
Exactly. Also, if it were up to me, just throw out that entire last dungeon, redo it. It is such a headache.
Yes. It's a double wide dungeon. The map is way too big. And yeah, seeing the map, like when you have the map, it does not help you navigate it at all, because it's all like different tunnels that like connect in ways that don't make any sense. You absolutely need like a walkthrough to play that in a modern setting for sure. So visual indicators and like little dudes on screen being like, go up, up, up,
more
up,
hint
here.
text. Yep,
that's right. Which then, of course, leads us with our final one, Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So Zelda 2, much like Star Tropics, is a game that includes lives, right? You have multiple lives, and then you die, and when you die, you go back to the first, like where the one respawn point, where Link has to basically march back to wherever he was to pick up where he left off. This is when you respawn from a continue. You can do so at any of the temples that you've touched the front door of. So if you wanted to finish up something that you were exploring in the desert, and you've been to the first temple, great. You can when you restart the game, you can spawn there. If you got deep into the fifth dungeon and lost your third life, then instead of having to start all the way back and like do the whole walk through the map again, you just start right back at that dungeon. It's a lot of unnecessary busy work because it's not even like you're experiencing challenges on your way there. It's just walking. So yeah, I think just being able to respawn from any temple that you've touched the front door of.
Yeah, that would be huge. My fix for Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link is to, and it's kind of general. I don't really know how to make it more specific, but adjust the difficulty in the beginning of the game through Death Mountain, because the start of this game is so hard.
Yes.
And Death Mountain especially, it just feels like an endless gauntlet of the game just trying to like beat you down.
Yes.
But once you get the hammer, it
opens up
so much easier
until the end when it becomes impossible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that would be my pitch. Just make the game a little bit more forgiving. Make the difficulty curve a little bit more of a gradual up ramp. Is this just like an early video game like NES thing? I feel like there are a handful of games, a number of games. I was narrowing it down a handful because I was hoping to think of another example and I can't think of one. But I feel like this is a common occurrence in NES games, in early video games, where for whatever reason it spikes in difficulty at the beginning and then mellows out. Which just feels so backwards to me.
Well, yeah, it definitely is backwards because it's like, why would you hide all of this fun, chill stuff after? And like, Battletoads is a bad example of this because it also has like several other difficulty curves. But notoriously, the third level has this like speeder bike section that's like very difficult to get past unless you've memorized the whole thing. And like the first two levels, totally manageable. You can do them, anyone can. And just the third one is like a hard stop for everyone. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, like you can do that first level, it's great. You can go into the dam and you can like be doing all that fine, and then you got to swim underwater and it will kill you. So yeah, no, it absolutely is a thing that needs to be addressed. I know we've used up our two things, but let me add 2 pixels of length to Link's sword. Just 2 pixels.
That seems fair.
I just want it to be a little bit longer.
You're not asking for too much.
I'm not asking for too much. I'm asking for 2 measly pixels.
It is, even in the game, it looks more like an itty bitty dagger.
It's laughable.
It's dinky.
It's dinky, and it means that like the enemies have to get so close. And okay, Link's sprite is it's like a double tall sprite, right? Like, so when his sword is small, it looks even stranger because he's so big.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like enemies have to get so close to you before you can deal any damage to them. And you have no other options for attack. That's it.
Yeah.
He can't do anything else.
Uh-uh.
He doesn't have a boomerang. He doesn't have bow and arrows. I mean, either give me 2 more pixels of sword or give me some of my classic weapons.
Yeah. Ooh, I mean, that would make it a totally different game.
It totally would, yes.
But a better game?
A perfect game.
A perfect game.
All right. So that's how we would fix all these NES games. Do you have any kind of like takeaway from like your experience of like trying to conceptualize what is like what's bad about some of these NES games, or like it was all just kind of like a case by case basis?
I don't know. I feel like you go through some of these and you're like, like Metroid is a great example where it just feels like it was a first draft.
Yes.
With the benefit of 40 years of gaming, it's
right.
easy to look back and see, what could be improved. But honestly, the real thing I took away from this is that we did a really good job, and these are all beautiful babies now.
I mean, I think so too. Also, the thing that I'm taking away is that we need to really introduce Blue Bowser and Pink Donkey Kong Jr. to like the library of characters we reference too frequently.
What if they are Emio?
We don't know. No one knows who is Emio. We just don't know. All right, Mark. Let's close this out. If you, listener, have Hold on. Oh, God. Oh, God. I've lost control. All right. If you, listener, have NES games that you would like to pitch fixes for, email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society
At gmail.com.
or get in the Discord and share those improvements with us there. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Thank you so much to our 16-bit patrons, Connor McKay, Patrice Millette, Kyle Seaborn. We appreciate you all. We appreciate everyone who's listening to the show right now. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening again right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers, saying thank you for listening. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo, oh boy.